Well, hello everyone and welcome. Thank you so much for joining today's session. This is Rasmussen's Professional Development Training Series, and it's a great monthly opportunity to enhance your skill set. So we're really glad to see you here today. I am personally very excited for today's topic on igniting excellence and unleashing the power of atomic habits. My name is Mackenzie McFadden. I am a senior national account manager, and I'm based out of Fargo, North Dakota. We do have 2 physical campus locations nearby, but I will be monitoring the session today. The session will be recorded, and everybody who attends the live session will be receiving a certificate of participation. So be on the lookout for those 2 things after the session. Please note that it may take us a day or 2 to get the recording out, but it will be coming to you. And then I will be monitoring the chat box. So if you do have questions as Elizabeth is speaking, please throw them in there. I will make sure we get to those towards the end of the session. And then more than likely, you are joining this session today because you are part of our Education Alliance Network, and you have some incredible benefits that we offer with the Rasmussen University and education benefits through your company. We offer a wide variety of tuition grants available to our corporate alliances. You can take advantage of your company's tuition reimbursement, combine those to save on your degree. We have a Start Strong Savings Grant where you can take advantage of our self-directed assessments at no cost. So a few of your courses where you can save up to an additional $7,000. And then we do have many different areas of study. So I know we have a lot of different industries represented today. If you come from, business world, technology, design, justice studies, education, nursing, health sciences, or human services, we can kind of help get you to wherever your education journey is leading you. We'll help you get to that next step. We have certificates, we have diplomas, associates, bachelor's degrees, master's programs, and doctorate degrees. So a wide variety of program areas for you to choose from. And then we do have Empower Learning. We know that you are all working professionals and you need a flexible option where you can take control of your learning, and we'll help you do that at Rasmussen. We also have multiple programs that can be completed 100% online, besides some of our nursing and health science degrees. And then a lot of them you can complete in as little as 18 months. And our next start date is April 1st. And funny thing is we have an Alliance Excellence Grant that is very fitting with the topic of this presentation today, where you can take advantage or get a $500 additional grant if you do begin classes by April 1st. So we'd love to have you as a student. If you're ready to go by April 1st, you get that additional $500. And for those of you that did select yes during registration for the session today, we will have an admissions advisor connect with you. So be on the lookout for that. If not, I will throw the landing page where you can go and explore your benefits today. I'll throw that in the chat after I'm done. Otherwise, you're here today to listen to Elizabeth, so I'll pass it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Hi, everybody. How are we doing? Well, welcome. My name is Elizabeth Lintleman, and I am thrilled to speak with you today about how you can ignite your excellence by unleashing the power of atomic habits. I've had the privilege of working at Rasmussen University for the past 15 years and currently serve as the director of alumni, where I get to manage a team that supports our alumni in finding work in their field of study. But just as you are, I am more than just my job title. I wear many hats in my life. I am a mother to 2 beautiful, smart, caring girls, Addison and Parker. I am a small business owner. My husband and I own a restaurant in southern Minnesota, which is a very funny story, but not one I'm going to dive into today. And I'm also a level 1 certified CrossFit coach. And I tell you this because I'm driven to help others achieve their goals, both personally and professionally. And so I am very fortunate to be able to share my perspective with you today and appreciate you taking time out of your day to join me. So it is now March. We are well into the new year. And I am just wondering how many of you have ever set a goal for yourself. So if you feel like sharing, you can put it in the chat. Maybe your goal was to lose weight. Maybe it was to run a marathon or a half marathon or maybe a 5K. So what are some of your goals? Did anybody set a New Year's resolution? Do we have anybody that set something? And it's okay if you chose not, you don't want to share it. That's okay. Healthier eating habits, love it. Any runners in here? Anybody wants goal to run a half marathon? I've done triathlons. I've never done marathons before. I don't know. I just don't know. It's a long distance. Do better than you did last year. Drink more water. I love it. Good. 5K. Reduce screen time. Fantastic. Awesome. Okay. So let's just say I set my goal of like running a marathon, right? On day one of training, I'm probably not going to set off to run 10 miles or 12 miles or 15 miles. At least I hope not. That's probably not a good strategy. Too often, we convince ourselves that massive success requires massive action, right? If I want to lose weight, I need to stop drinking alcohol. I need to drink 80 ounces of water a day. I need to exercise 6 days a week. I need to cut all the sweets from my diet. I need to cut all the carbs from my diet. And then what happens? We can't stick to it because in reality, if I could just get 1% better each day for 1 year, I would end up 37 times better by the time I'm done. And then conversely, if I get 1% worse each day for 1 year, I'm going to decline to nearly zero. What starts as a small win or a minor setback accumulates into something much more. The effects of our habits multiply as we repeat them. Now, at the beginning, they seem to make really no difference on any given day, right? But the impact they deliver over months and years can be enormous. And that's a difficult concept to appreciate in daily life because it's really easy to dismiss those small changes because they don't seem to they don't really matter, right? If I save a little bit of money today, I'm not going to wake up a millionaire tomorrow. If I study Spanish for an hour tonight, I will not have mastered the language in 2 weeks. We make a few changes, but the results don't come quickly. And so we slide back into our previous routines. And unfortunately, that slow pace of transformation makes it really easy to let those bad habits slide. If I eat an unhealthy meal today, the scale's not going to move much. If I procrastinate on my taxes, I got time. I got time to do them. I'll finish them up later. A single decision is easy to dismiss, but when we repeat the 1% errors day after day, replicating poor decisions, rationalizing those little excuses, our choices compact into toxic results. And it's the accumulation of many missteps and a 1% decline here and there that eventually leads to problems. And so, what I want to talk to you about today is helping you understand that slight changes in your daily habit guide your professional and your personal life to very different destinations. Making a choice that's 1% better or 1% worse, it seems insignificant at the time, but over the span of a lifetime, they really do determine the difference between who you are and who you could be. So let's talk about goals and systems for a minute, because many of the organizations I've worked for, maybe that you've worked for, can be very goal-oriented. Don't get me wrong, goals are good. They set our direction, but we have to pay attention to the systems that get us to achieve those goals. So for example, I have a messy room. I set a goal to clean it. I might be able to summon up enough energy to get my room clean for now. But if I maintain the same sloppy habits, pretty soon I'm going to be looking at a new pile of clutter. And the same is true for whatever goals you set for yourself. We're constantly striving to achieve metrics, but if we don't focus on the systems to get us to those positive outcomes, we're going to be constantly chasing our tail. So in order to improve for good, we need to solve problems at a system level, which are our habits. If we can fix the inputs, the outputs will fix themselves. Now, today's presentation is based off of the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. The book has a ton of really good tips on how to build good habits and break bad ones. Today, I'm just going to walk you through 4 suggestions on how to create good habits so that you can build those into your daily routine. And the first is to make it obvious. Many people think they lack the motivation when really what they lack is the clarity, right? We have these foggy notions about what we'd like to do, such as like, I want to work out more, or I want to be more productive. But what we need to do is transform those general statements into a concrete plan. Being specific about what you want and how you will achieve it helps you say no to things that derail your progress, distract your attention, and pulls you off course. When our dreams are vague, it's really easy to rationalize little requests because we're not clear on what we need to be doing. We tell ourselves, I'm going to eat healthier, but we never say where or when those habits are going to happen. We just leave it up to chance and hope I'm going to remember to do it or hope I feel motivated to eat healthier. People who make a specific plan for when and where they will perform a new habit are more likely to follow through. So for example, if my vague notion is like, I want to be more relaxed. I don't want to be so uptight. I'm going to achieve this goal by meditating for 1 minute at 7 a.m. in my kitchen. I'm not leaving it up to chance. I'm setting a specific time and place to work on my new habit. And one of the best ways to build a new habit is to identify current habits that you already have each day and then stack that new behavior on top of it. So, for example, if my goal is to drink more water, I would stack my new habit with my current habit. So, in the morning, after I brush my teeth, I'm going to drink a glass of water. Habit stacking allows you to create a simple set of rules to guide your future behavior because you always have a game plan for what comes next. Once you get comfortable with that approach, you can develop general habit stacks to guide your behaviors in any situation. So I have examples here about exercise, finance, and your mood. Now, here's my warning slide about making it obvious. When and where you choose to insert your habit can make a big difference. So going back to my meditation example, if I want to increase my meditation, and I try adding it into my morning routine. But mornings are chaotic for me because I've got my kids, I got to get dressed, I got to get them fed, I got to get them on the bus, I got to feed the dogs, I got to make lunches, right? I've got too many things going on. Maybe trying to meditate at 7 o'clock in the morning in my kitchen, maybe that's the wrong place and time. I shouldn't ask myself to create a new habit when I'm too preoccupied with other things. And also, the cues need to have the same frequency as your desired habit. So, for example, if I want to build in a daily habit, I shouldn't stack it on habits that only happen Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So, one of the ways to find the right trigger for you is by brainstorming a list of your current habits. And then with that list, you can identify the best place to layer in your new habit. Now, believe it or not, motivation is overrated. I'm going to tell you something you already know. Humans perceive the world through sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste. The most powerful of all human sensory abilities is vision. The body has about 11 million sensory receptors. 10 million of those are dedicated to sight. So obviously visual cues are the greatest catalyst for our behavior. So small changes in what we see can lead to a big shift in what you do. The environment where we live and work has to be filled with productive cues. When the cues that spark habits are subtle or hidden, it's easy to ignore. So let's think about this. I want to eat healthier, but my apples are stored in my fridge, in the drawer, inside, like, wait, they're hidden, right? So I'm probably more likely going to grab a cookie sitting on the counter in plain sight. If you want to drink more water, put water bottles around your house to help you to remind you to drink more water. If you want to send more thank you notes, keep a stack of stationery at your desk. By sprinkling those triggers throughout your surroundings, you're going to increase the odds that you'll think about that habit more during the day. And when we think about our environment, we have to stop thinking about it as filled with objects, but rather with relationships, because different people have different memories and different habits associated with the same place. So like when people have trouble sleeping, right? Doctors recommend get out of bed, go to another room until you're ready to fall asleep. You don't want your brain to associate your bed as the place where you lay around not sleeping. Let's talk about working from home. Many of us do. And while some of us have dedicated workspaces, many don't. And it can be really hard to work at your kitchen counter if you're used to using that space to prepare meals. Or maybe you've turned your living room into a makeshift office. It's really hard to define the division between the end of work time and the beginning of personal time. Is your kitchen table your office, or is it the space where you eat meals? Is the couch where you relax, or is it where you take conference calls? So in order to build healthy habits with limited space, we have to divide rooms into activity zones. Maybe it's a chair at your dining room table that you use for work and a separate chair inside of the table that you use for eating. If you want habits that are stable and predictable, you need an environment that is stable and predictable. It's just like your bedroom. If you want to be able to sleep at night, don't be watching TV or playing on your phone. You're sending mixed messages to your head. The same is true for work. You're going to be able to focus when sitting at a defined workspace, and you're going to be able to relax more quickly when the space you create is designed for that purpose. Let's talk about self-control. We've all heard it. If I just had more self-control, I wouldn't have eaten that whole bag of Oreos. Or if I was just more disciplined, I would, you fill in the blank. The truth of the matter is, you do not have to be a more disciplined person. You need to create a more disciplined environment. Here's a little history lesson for you. During the Vietnam War, the US learned that over 20% of US troops stationed there were heroin addicts. And President Nixon created a special action office to address the issue. And some of the researchers in charge found that when soldiers had become heroin addicts, came home, only 5% of them became re-addicted within a year, and just 12% of them relapsed within 3 years. So in other words, 9 out of 10 soldiers who used in Vietnam eliminated their addiction nearly overnight when they returned. The research revealed that addictions could spontaneously dissolve if there was radical change in the environment. This research totally challenged the conventional association of unhealthy behavior as a moral weakness, right? If you're overweight or you're a smoker or you're an addict, you've been told that it's, well, you lack self-control. You know, if you just had self-control or maybe a little bit of discipline, that would solve your problems. But the research shows something different. Recent research shows that people who have tremendous self-control aren't that different from those that struggle with it. Disciplined people are better at structuring their lives in a way that does not require the willpower and self-control, which results in spending less time in tempting situations. So really, self-control is a short-term strategy. You might be able to resist temptation once or twice, but it is unlikely you're going to be able to muster the willpower to override your desires every time. You have to make the cues of your good habits obvious, the cues of your bad habits invisible. For example, you find it hard getting work done, leave your cell phone in the other room or silence the notifications so you're not distracted. Now, I will say that habits also need to be attractive, and you can do that by learning to associate them with positive experiences. And sometimes you just need a slight mind shift to transform seeing those behaviors from burdens into opportunities. So here is a picture of my daughter's timed multiplication test, right? It's one of those tests, it's got like 100 multiplications. You got 2 minutes to get it all done. Like, okay, flip it over, ready, go. She hates those tests, hates them. But rather than writing like, I hate math or this is dumb on the back of her sheet, she reframes her thinking before taking her test. I can do this. We often talk about the things we have to do in a given day, but what if we reframed it into I get to, not I have to do a presentation. I get to teach today. I get to teach someone a new skill today. I get to help someone persist through school. Reframing our habits to highlight the benefits rather than their drawbacks is a fast and lightweight way to reprogram our minds to make habits seem more attractive. And when it comes to making habits more attractive, it's important to put yourself in the right mental state. And there are practices that you can employ to get there. Say you want to feel happier in general. Find something that makes you happy. For me, it's petting my dogs. There's Archie, he's wearing the Santa suit. Cooper is laying on the bed waiting for me to pet him. I find huge joy in my dogs. Petting them makes me very happy. So what I need to do is create a short routine that I perform every time before I do the thing I love. Maybe it's taking 3 deep breaths, smiling, petting my dog. Take 3 deep breaths, smile, pet my dog. Repeat. Eventually, I'm going to begin associating the breathing and the smiling with being in a good mood and being happy. And it becomes rather a cue that means I'm happy, just the breathing and the smiling. And once established, I can break it out anytime I need to change my emotional state. Stressed at work, got a big presentation, breathe, smile, happy state. The key to finding and fixing the causes of your bad habits is to reframe the associations that you have about them. The last thing I want to talk about as it relates to making habits attractive is motion versus action, because it is easy to get bogged down to find the optimal plan for change. We're so focused on figuring out the best approach, never actually get around to taking action. Sometimes motion is useful, but it's never going to produce the outcome itself. Only the action is going to get you the results you want to achieve. So for example, it doesn't matter how many times I talk about getting a personal trainer. I want to get in shape. I think a personal trainer is it. Have you ever done a personal? I'm really thinking about personal training. Do you think, I think that's what I'm going to do. I think personal training is going to get me in shape. No, the motion's never going to get me in shape. Only the action of working out will get me the results I want to achieve. So why do I do it? Why do I keep talking about it? Well, motion makes me feel like I'm getting something done, but in reality, it's just preparing me to get something done. So don't let the preparation become procrastination. You don't want to be merely planning. You need to be practicing. Now let's talk about making habits easy, because every day is made up of moments, but it is really a few habitual choices that determine the path that we're going to take. Yes, a habit can be completed in just a few seconds, but it can shape the actions that we take for minutes or hours afterwards. In fact, research suggests that 40 to 50% of our actions on any given day are done out of habit. So if you think about it, habits are really the entrance ramp to a highway, right? They lead us down a path, and before we know it, we're speeding towards our next behavior. Let me ask you this. How many of you have kept snacking even when you're already full? Sunday nights, my husband makes popcorn. For some reason, I'm not hungry, and yet I'm doing this. I've eaten like a whole bag of popcorn. It's just a habit, right? Maybe you grab your phone and you're like, I just got to check an email for a second. Just a second. And then you look up, and 20 minutes later, you've been scrolling for 20 minutes. The habits you follow without thinking often determine the choices you make while you are thinking. These little choices stack up, each one setting a trajectory for how you're going to spend the next chunk of time. So when you look to make habits easy, you have to reduce the friction associated with them. If you look at the most habit-forming products, you'll notice that something they do really, really well is reduce the friction from your life. For example, Netflix. They've continued to remove the friction in their delivery of multimedia. Meal services, delivery services, they reduce the friction of shopping for groceries. Ride-sharing services reduce the friction of getting across town. Building better habits comes down to finding ways to reduce the friction associated with our good habits and increase the friction associated with our bad ones. The good news is there's many ways to prime our environment so it's ready for immediate use. Want to exercise? Set out your clothes, your shoes, your water bottle ahead of time. Want to improve your diet? Meal prep on the weekends, pack them in containers so you have access to healthy, ready-to-eat options during the week. There are simple ways to make the good habits the path of least resistance. You can also invert that process and that principle and prime the environment to make bad behaviors difficult, right? If you find yourself watching too much TV, try unplugging it after each use, remove the batteries from the controllers. So the next time you want to sit down and watch a show, it takes more of an effort to turn it back on. Distracted at work? Leave your cell phone in a different room. If it's not next to you, I mean, how many times do you check it every time it beeps or vibrates? How can you design a world where it's easy to do what's right? Lastly, I am going to talk quickly about how to make habits satisfying, because we're more likely to repeat a behavior when the experience is satisfying. It's totally logical, right? It's why people smoke even though they know it causes cancer. The consequence of the bad behavior, it's delayed. Smoking might get me in 20 years, but it reduces my stress, eases my nicotine craving now. Pleasure teaches our brain that a behavior is worth remembering. And repeatedly, if an experience is not satisfying, we have little reason to repeat it. Think about the last time you went out for a meal, you went out to eat, and you had a poor dining experience, right? Not going to be rushing to get back there again. Positive emotions cultivate habits. And the best way to successfully build new habits is to add a little bit of immediate pleasure into the habits that pay off in the long run. Now, the vital thing in getting a habit to stick is to feel successful, even if it's in a small way. So, how do you make work habits satisfying? For example, I have to cold call 200 new prospective clients. How am I going to make that satisfying? One thought is you could deploy the paperclip strategy. In 1993, a bank in Canada hired a 23-year-old who used to start every day with 2 jars on his desk, one with 120 paperclips in it, the other one was empty. Every time he'd make a call, he'd move a paperclip into the jar. Within 18 months, he was bringing in $5 million to the bank. How? Well, making progress is satisfying, and visual measures like moving paper clips is clear evidence on your progress. As a result, they reinforce your behavior and add a little bit of immediate satisfaction to any activity. Essentially, you need a way to track your activity because the tracking itself can become its own form of reward, right? I'm a list person. Love making lists, love even more crossing things off my to-do list, making an X on the calendar. Habit tracking keeps your eye on the end goal, but really you're focused more on the process rather than the results. And habit tracking also keeps us honest. Most of us, let's be honest, have a distorted view of our own behavior. We think we're actually better than what we do. And measurement offers us one way to overcome that blindness to our behavior and notice what's really going on each day. The one thing I want to make sure to emphasize before wrapping up today is that no matter how consistent you are with your habits, it is inevitable. Life will interrupt you at some point. Kids get sick, vacations come up, life happens. Perfection, not possible. The first mistake is never the one that ruins you. It is the spiral of repeated mistakes that follow. Missing once, an accident. Missing twice, the start of a new habit. Too often we fall into this all or nothing cycle with our habits. And the problem isn't slipping up. The problem is thinking that if you can't do something perfectly, then I shouldn't do it at all. So don't let the deviation from the norm become the norm. Now, after today's session, I am hopeful that you have a few new tools and frames of reference to help you identify some personal or professional habits you want to improve or develop. Just remember to start small. Habits are intended to be small changes that help change your trajectory over time. Now, for more detailed information about forming and sustaining healthy habits and breaking bad ones, I strongly recommend reading Atomic Habits by James Clear. I truly appreciate you taking time out of your day to join me in this conversation and would welcome you to connect with me on LinkedIn. Thanks so much. All right, let's see if there are any questions.
That was wonderful. Yes, please throw your questions in the chat box. We would be more than happy to answer those for you. I see some hand raises, but I don't know if that's like clapping or.
It's a high five. It's a virtual high five.
It is a high five.
I like it. Let's do it. Practice makes progress, not perfect. I love that. Sticky notes. I am totally a sticky note person. I've got sticky notes. I literally have like 5 packs of sticky notes over my desk. Totally a sticky note person. Guilty.
I am too. I love sticky notes and the color, all the different colors.
Yep, me too. I got more than this. They're just tucked away. Start logging my food. That is so good. I use an app too and started logging food